A couple of months ago, I had lunch with a couple of seniors, ladies from Quail Ridge condominium complex in the center of town, and they said how they had each moved from the Chappaqua area.
Yeah,
and
that's
said, this community is wonderful.
Yeah.
Our taxes are lower, you do so much for the seniors, so everything's relative in life. And we're finding that although that demographic component called senior citizen is not going down, it's actually growing in our community, the number of senior citizens. We have a lot of people coming in from the Gold Coast of Darien, Row 8, down along the shore, coming north. Our people are saying, I can't stay here, they're going north. And we have people coming in from New York.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. I want to switch subjects now.
But just what you're talking about too, though, it's not just taxes, which is just one component. It's the cost of real estate.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're not saying, well, we're not buying a starting home in Ridgefield because we're going to pay $7,000 in taxes a year. They're saying, well, we can't buy it because they want $600,000 for a starter home in Ridgefield.
And that's just the reality of the market.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to question that. My question is, what does that do to the town in the long run? That you lose. When you lose natives to an extent like that, you kind of lose the heart and the core of the town. I mean, you're a native, you grew up here. How many folks did you grow up with that are now gone?
The only way he could afford to stay was to run the town. And then that way...
You're wrong there, Marty. You're wrong there, believe me. The only way I was able to stay is because I had family here, and we had the home. My parents passed on. I have the house now, and that helps you stay. You know, could I afford to come in and buy the house we're in today? Under no circumstances. I could never ever do that. And that's really what's going on. It's a very, very interesting point because we are seeing a change taking place. People are moving on, they can't afford it here anymore. Many people call and say, I just can't do it anymore. They hear that moving to the south, we get a lot more house, taxes are lower, but you have the educational problem. You have to pay for schools and educate in private schools. So.
There was an interesting article in Ridgefield Magazine this last issue. There was a couple, a senior couple, and they're staying. They're keeping their house in Westmoreland. They're just staying. They say, I have a lot invested in this town. That's exactly it. And they said, yes, taxes are high, but on balance, you know, we have roots here. We put down roots. Our kids live not in town, but in the vicinity, so we're staying. So you're seeing some of that as well. But yeah, I do think there's a transition, and it may be anecdotal. But there used to be a restaurant in town called Bully's, and Bully's had a pool table, and after you played your softball game, you went over there to Bully's and had a soda pop or whatever your beverage of choice was, and it was kind of a family place, you know, popcorn's in the day, it was great. They moved out, and there's a very fine Japanese restaurant there,
which is very good.
Which is really, but it's a very good restaurant. It's a fine restaurant, but it's a different. You know, there seems to be a bit of a transition. Can we hold on to what's best of the old and not just turn into another New Canaan or something like that? Nothing against New Canaan. I think we can. I think Ridgefield, you know, when I stand on the parade, the Memorial Day parade or the Veterans Day thing, you do still get a sense of community in Ridgefield. You still can go to the Stop and Shop or walk down Main Street and know people. You still can live. I'm a painting contractor. My next door neighbor is a plumbing contractor. The guy 2 doors down owned Priceline.com. You know, he's a multi-billionaire on the cover of Forbes magazine, yet we all live in the same community. So
he used to live there.
He used to live there. Now he owns a mountaintop, and he's doing very well. And he's a lovely member of the community and supports the community. So I still think that there is a mix in Ridgefield, and it's unique to this town. Enough puffing of Ridgefield.
You know,
that's one of the things I love about Ridgefield.
Certainly don't mean to criticize Ridgefield. I consider it my second hometown.
Yeah, you know more people.
And it's a special town. It truly is. And part of that is because it does have that defined downtown where people do meet and congregate and get to know each other. I just think towns like Bethel and Ridgefield, which always were very close-knit communities, are losing that a little more every year.
I think Bethel's a wonderful community. If I was moving into this area, I've got to tell you, Bethel, I think you get your Best Buy today. Education needs a little help.
We're working on that.
Bethel has that nice little downtown area. Jerry's working on this village center.
We have,
and the concept plan is wonderful with the bypass of Route 7 and that whole development. It'll be great.
One of the people that you mentioned a little while ago too, some exciting news out of Hartford this week. John Fry, your state representative.
John Fry.
John Fry is one of maybe 2, if not 3, single-town state representatives. His entire district encompasses one town. And the exciting news was, I wish I had brought it with me, it was the Hartford Courant Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday. He is one of the people being considered, supposedly, for State Republican Party Chairman or Republican National Committee man in Connecticut.
Hey, this is, I don't know if we can get a shot of this. This is,
Can we zoom in here?
Is that Marty?
that's, yeah, there we get a shot of that. That would be John Fry here, Governor Well, and then a pair of hangers-on, really, all at the inaugural ball. Yes.
And that was great. That was great news to hear because, and Rudy, I know you're not on the side with us, but the Republican Party overall in Connecticut needs rehabilitation right now. I'm sorry, George Gallo, for all his virtues, did not lead the party well for the last 2 years. We lost seats in the legislature. We've lost our donors. We've lost our Rolodex. We've lost just about everything except the governor's mansion.
Who misplaced the Rolodex? I thought you had it.
No,
I think it was in Dick Foley's trunk.
I think it got subpoenaed with John Rowland. But
Okay. Someone misplaced the Rolodex.
In any case, I think John would be an excellent choice for either of those positions. I hope he would get us back on the map. And I would hope some of the people in the State Central Committee that have been there for so long, too long maybe, would step down and move on to other things. They obviously...
Tall order.
Not at all, not at all.
I sense the gauntlet being thrown down. Paul, did you get that as well?
They need to listen to the local town committees that have won local elections on a local level. They have not succeeded at the state. We've around in both houses of the legislature and and 2 congressional seats. So if John thinks he can help us, I know he's been an excellent state rep for this town, very highly respected, decided not to seek one of the higher leadership positions in the House Republicans, I presume to do this. So
I'm sorry, was this reported on that John was
it
considered?
is in the Hartford Courant, if it was out on Tuesday, if it was in Wednesday.
Well,
You know, good,
One of them made a mistake and said he was the state representative from Greenwich, actually, so you can look that up.
good for
They were really talking about John Fry.
The John Fry.
The John Fry.
John's a nice guy. I've known him a long time. If he
Wrong
chooses,
town, right guy.
if he
Take a look at
chooses,
it the next time.
if he chooses to pursue either option, I wish him luck. I wouldn't want either of those jobs. You know, Ridgefield has been very lucky in the sense that you've been well represented in Hartford for a long time.
Yeah,
Barbara Ireland, Herb Camp, Chris
Yeah,
Scalzo.
Chris.
You know, and
And John is what, 10 years now almost?
94.
Yes. He's in his 50s.
No, 98, 94.
98, I'm sorry, correct. You know, Ridgefield has been lucky in that regard, but you don't get a lot of people that move up all that often. Was the last state senator Romeo Petroni? And how long ago was that? The
Romeo.
70s, 60s?
Hello, Romeo.
We had a governor, didn't we, back in the
2.
day?
Lounsbury.
Lounsbury. And,
Brothers.
yeah. But that was a while ago. What have you done for us lately?
Poor either of us were
Okay.
No,
We weren't either.
That is correct. That would be wonderful for Ridgefield and the region if John were to pursue a higher office in some capacity and serve, be successful in that endeavor. Ridgefield is a hard place to move up from, though, and I don't know that John can do it.
Well, no, I don't think I don't think John is not the kind of guy that...
And I don't mean that John personally, I mean Ridgefield itself is a difficult place to move
You
from.
mentioned something interesting. Nobody really would want either of those jobs.
I would.
John is not somebody, I don't think, John is somebody that does not look out for himself. I mean, he's very happy as state
If
rep.
the party called him, he'd serve.
Yes, absolutely, and he would do a good job, and he would not want that job unless he could do it to the best of his ability. And he's always been somebody, when it comes to party issues, he's done over 150%. And I think that's a lot better than we could ask for right now, especially for the Republican Party. Marconi's happy about the states of the Republican Party.
I've been very, very quiet. Very, very quiet.
Okay, a couple questions we've been at. One is, why are there no fast food restaurants in Ridgefield? I would answer it because we have lovely dining establishments.
We have
like
the Early
Bird. And
I think they all went to Bethel and Brookfield.
you can
That's what
come
I
here to
think
the
happened.
Early Bird and have a healthy, well-balanced meal and a friendly atmosphere.
Fast food is well represented at this table. Brookfield and Bethel. For years, there have been attempts, every now and then, of a restaurant coming in, fast food establishment, or zoning rules and regulations are quite explicit about that.
We had a Duchess for a
There's
while.
Subway.
We had a Duchess, yes.
You have Subway,
There is a
We have a
Subway.
We
Subway.
have a Subway, but
and you have Dunkin' Donuts.
they,
Yeah, Dunkin'
I
Donuts.
think the
Drive-thru.
question relates more to a McDonald's
McDonald's,
drive-through.
Burger King, yeah.
A drive-through fast food place.
There's no drive-through in the Dunkin'
You
Donuts?
won't, no.
No.
Oh,
No.
Well, Ridgefield has actually, you've progressed, because I remember not too long ago, every sign was still black and white.
Where is the subway?
That was a Supreme Court decision on a case that came out of Greenwich.
Okay.
That you can regulate the size of the sign, but not the color.
Where is the subway?
Main Street.
On Bailey Avenue
Oh,
now.
yeah,
Around the
right.
corner.
Okay, I didn't even know
Moved
that.
down to Bailey Avenue.
It's a
Still doing a good
fine
business.
establishment. Yep.
Another question, and this is on the cover of the Ridgefield Press. Will fewer students be coming to school? I don't know if you have a shot of that. What do you make of this? You're the head of the town.
I'm not the head of the Board of Education. You can't confuse the two, because Ken Freeston will be calling me on Tuesday morning. And I'm not going to go there.
Which is another issue,
go
too.
into Ken's territory.
Dr. Freeston
We
is,
reviewed it. I gave the Board of Selectmen at our meeting this past Wednesday the complete report that was done by Dr. Chung. And it shows about a 20% reduction over the, I guess, the next 10 years, I think, through 2016. It's spread out through all 12 grades. It shows us dropping to about 4,400 students. We're at 5,600 now, and around there. Is it a drastic thing? No, and one thing that everyone needs to remember, this is just one person's forecast.
Yeah.
And what is going to have a tremendous impact on whether that pans out or not is going to be the economy. What happens in the economy? And one thing when we did the last one we didn't anticipate was World Trade Center. You know, in 2000 we did a 10-year projection through 2009 and 10, and in 01 the towers came down and had a devastating effect on your birth rate. Definitely dropped during that time and slowed everything up. So there are a lot of variables that could have an impact on it. It's a snapshot in time. We're taking a look at it, absorbing it, but I doubt that you'll see any drastic changes being made. Not at this point.
Brookfield is going to go through a period, and Ridgefield might as well, in the next couple of years, where we're going to have empty classrooms at the lower grades, in the elementary schools, even some in the middle schools, as the bubble shifts up to the high school. So we have empty classrooms, and one of the things about empty classrooms that our Board of Finance chairman likes to point out is with that, you don't need as many full-time equivalents. Yep.
Right. But major issue, having the Board of Ed experience you do, is going to be class size. Do you allow those class sizes to go down below 22, 25, get into the 18s, 16s, 15s? Do you still keep that class size?
in this article, Keith Miller, who's our new chairman of the Board of Ed, says that there's also sort of a reverse kicker there. As student populations go down, class sizes go down, it makes it more attractive to young families with children to come in because class sizes are so low and the education values are here, so that could cause a further influx.
Depends on how you spin it.
I mean, you know what it was? We had the same thing with the special ed. We dealt with this from the Board of Finance perspective. We had special ed requirements where by mandate we had to provide a certain education function for whatever the special needs were with these students. So we were farming this out at incredible cost. And the average cost of a student might be somewhere around $11,000–12,000 a year, something like that. But a special ed student who has special needs has to take a taxi somewhere. It could be $200,000 for one student. So what did they do? They said, well, we're going to try to put together programs so we can do this in-house. What was the result of that? We began to attract families with special needs kids, and it caused what we thought was going to save money actually ended up costing more. It could be something similar with the number of students. As student population goes down, we could have an influx. The law of unintended consequences is always at work.
There's trade-offs when something like this happens too, because at Brookfield, one of the biggest problems that we've always had is we have a school for just kindergarten and first grade. All the kindergartners and first grade goes to the small, one of the only wooden schools left in Connecticut there, right on Route 133. And as you lose part of your lower population, do you move kindergarten and first grade to the other elementary school and run 3 schools as opposed to 4? But they don't want to lose the character of that.
Bottom line will tell you to do that, but you have to look at the educational values.
Yeah, and that's a plum for the community. Isn't one of the schools right now closed in Ridgefield? Or?
No. We had years ago we had closed Branchville School,
yep.
And it became we rented it out. It was a Montessori school, and we also closed the Barlow School. We closed 2 schools, and Barlow eventually became a Y. That shut down, and in 93, 94, we took it over and moved our Parks and Rec facility in there, taking over the pool.
What's at the old Branchville school now?
That's back up as a school, as is the Barlow.
Okay. But these are all trade-offs for community. I guess we got about 5 minutes left on the air.
Okay. The next question we have you the rules have been changed in town, and now it's a 4-year term for the first selectman. I saw in the paper you're announcing, would you like to announce on this program right here, or is it already common knowledge?
I don't know if there's any announcement. People said, are you running again? And I said, yes.
Okay, you heard it here first on Ivan's program.
It's no big announcement, no need for that. I enjoy the job, I like what I'm doing, hopefully the people appreciate that and re-elect me. If they don't, I guess we know how they feel.
Let me caution one thing about 4-year terms for selectmen. I think it's just done from a study that we did. It's nothing to do with Ridgefield.
But this is passed, in the last election cycle, it was up for a referendum.
Let me just point one of the things that you're going to face is Ridgefield, and this will happen, because I presume the election for first selectman will be this year for a 4-year term?
November.
First selectman elected in November this year will be for a 4-year term.
The entire board.
Entire board of selectmen, okay. 2 years out, 2009, the first office on the ballot will be Board of Finance. Your voter turnout is going to plummet in that off-year municipal election because the top of the ticket will not be on the ballot. It's going to plummet.
That's interesting.
We've had a problem with that word for a while now, voter participation. Our budget referendums draw very low in the 18 to 20% area, and it seems unless we have a controversial issue there, people don't vote. Presidential, we have no problem getting the vote out, 75, 80%. You go to a local election, we're in the 40 to 50%. Budgets, which, and we spend a lot of time talking about taxes, and how are we going to increase economic development, and how are we going to help the taxpayers and the seniors stay here? No one votes.
In our towns, that's not the case. We're the killer bees.
What do you get in Brookfield in
about low to mid 40s.
in the budgets? That's very good.
Lately.
That's very, very good.
Bethel always clears 50 in a budget. Seldom does it not.
Do you really? Bethel clears 50?
It's a very
40 to 60 has
It's a
been
very voter-active community,
don't see
Bethel.
that
It's a
here.
very politically active community.
Well, you have Billy Michael in Bethel.
It's a very well politically educated community.
Right.
But I mean, watch this though. In your off year in 2009, when your top ticket of the ballot is Board of Finance, you're going to have 15-20% turnout in the election, and that's not a good thing.
Well, that's the problem with the people. They can vote. No one's stopping them from voting. It's
So
their
without
choice.
the top of the ticket running, it's not a.
Well, then they don't value their Board of Finance. They don't come out and register their approval or disapproval.
To be honest with you, I don't think that might happen. It could. It'd be interesting to see what does happen.
Yeah, but you will still continue to have races for treasurer and town clerk every 2 years.
They get 4 years.
No, town clerk,
They've always been 4.
town treasurer,
Tax
collector, all went 4 years.
They did.
And they're all up this year, all 5.
Right.
Okay.
Board of Selectmen,
Board of Selectmen,
town clerk,
selectmen,
tax collector, and the treasurer.
So what do you make of that? What do you make of the high voter turnout in your town and the low voter turnout in Ridgefield?
Well, let me just say, the 2-year versus 4-year, in a town like Bethel, where we are divided very much so, a 2-year term works out.
Divided how? What's the percentage?
I'll get to that, but Bethel is, every 2 years we can register our dissatisfaction, which we seem to do.
Or your satisfaction.
Or our satisfaction, which we do regularly. Ridgefield is lucky that Rudy Marconi is generally considered, and Republicans will admit this privately anyway, you are generally regarded as the best manager in the region. You're an innovator and a fine first selectman. A 4-year term, and that's certainly been proven by your overwhelming victories. No offense, Marty.
They were offered outstanding alternatives and still chose Mr. Marconi. So
you make your point well taken.
There is less of a political danger for a 4-year term in a town like Ridgefield. It's a far more homogeneous town than Bethel. We are very much a divided town. Very rarely do we see a budget approved by an overwhelming majority.
Or rejected.
Really?
Or rejected. Very rarely, except for 2 years ago, we've had close races for first selection forever.
Wow. Recounts.
You've had 4 first selectmen since Rudy's been in office.
This last election, when Bob Burke won, I think that was our first election for the last 4 where first selectman actually received more than 50% of the vote.
And the biggest margin in about 16 years.
We are a town with 4 parties, very much engaged parties. Bethel's just a whole different kind of a town, but there are demographic reasons and political reasons that create our divisions, and when you have division, you have passion, and that passion brings out high voter turnout.
I can see that.
And you know what? We are lucky to have that. Does it create hard feelings? Does it create an atmosphere at times that is basically mean? Absolutely. But in the long run, it's healthy for our community because people actually register by going to the polls and voting yes or no on a budget. They're saying they care about their town. Some folks don't care about their town. And those are the transient people. We're here for 5 years and then we're gone.
Yeah.
We don't give a damn what goes on in that 5 years as long as our property values continue to go up.
Right.
So it is the divisions of a town like Bethel, and if you want to use that word, polarization, that gives us the high voter turnout.
Friction creates the heat, which creates the interest, which creates the turnout.
Yeah, Brookfield has higher voter turnout for a similar reason, but I don't think you folks have the passion that we do.
Well, it's not as much political. Brookfield's a very neighborhood-oriented town.
Marty generated a little bit of heat.
He did, but he was, that was,
Not you.
that was, but I mean, he was the first selectman elected with 71% of the vote, too.
Right.
And Jerry was elected unopposed in the last election. So both of them, at the time of being in office, I'd say you could call them popular first selectmen. But Brookfield's a very neighborhood-oriented town. It has its Lake Wilnoa people. You have your Candlewood Shores people. You have your Green Ridge people out by Newtown. You have your people up towards the north end of the town in the Milford Board. Now you have these senior complexes. Brookfield is a very neighborhood-oriented issue town. It's a one-party town, as you'd say.
It is.
It's for years the joke was the top finisher in the election was the Republicans. The second top finisher was the Independent who lost the Republican primary, and then the Democrats down at the bottom. And that's the case. And our head of our Democratic Party is named Marconi, no relation to Mr. Marconi.
I had a funny story on that. Not too long, well, about 2 years ago, the News Times called Susan Tuz, who was a reporter, and said they wanted to come in and talk. And I said, sure. She came in, and she sauntered in, and she said, Mr. Marconi, I hear there's an announcement forthcoming. I said, really? About what? She said, oh, come on, you can tell me. And I said, Susan, what are you referring to? I don't know what you're talking about.
You're running for Congress?
She said, I have a photographer on the way in. We want to take their picture. We're all excited about the News Times. We heard about it, and we got it from a very reliable source. And I said, well, then you need to share it with me, because I seriously don't have a clue. She said, you're not running for Congress. I said, oh, no.
Not even in that district.
Not even thinking about
Not even in that district.
Right.
So the Brookfield Marconi was running for Congress?
And what it was, I said, who was it that heard? She said a reporter was at a cocktail party. I said, where? In Brookfield. And I said, let me make a call. So I called Bob up at the AG's office, and I said, Bob, are you thinking about possibly running for Congress? How did you know? And I said, I have the Danbury News Times.
With a photographer waiting for the announcement.
Miss Marconi. And I said, can I give him your name and number? And he said, sure.
Brookfield, though, is a very neighborhood-oriented community. I've got to say that you get different people from different neighborhoods, and they get on issues and they can't let go. I mean, the bad news is we got news yesterday that Iroquois is going to come into town and build that compression station.
Oh, they are. All the hard work and the objections. Same thing, we're looking at Broadwater out in the middle of the Sound. I mean, that's on the one hand, you need to do something about energy costs. Oil is, I mean, it's come down the last couple of days, I think. But overall, we're very, very concerned about the futures of oil. However, do we build a Broadwater plant, a floating resource where tankers come in and unload in the middle of the Sound, out at the end of the Sound, I should say. That's got a lot of people, especially in Brantford, very, very concerned, but it continues to move further and further.
Exxon Valdez, anyone?
We got a minute to go here. What are we going to do with the last minute?
Okay, we are going to thank you for coming to our fair town. Mr. Marconi, thank you very much for being a part of this panel.
I've enjoyed it.
We hope you'll have us back again. We're not going to get roped and hog-tied on the way out.
No, I thank the Early Bird Restaurant for providing this venue.
Yep,
Thank you to Judy and their entire family.
And Paul, next week it's going to be in Bethel, Connecticut.
Yep.
And you'll be hosting it. And you'll
yet to be determined. I think Matt and I will co-host.
You're going to co-host that?
As the former aide to the Bethel First Selectman, he knows Bethel pretty well.
Sure, and I've been.
Who'd you work for?
Okay.
Bobby Brown.
Oh, Bob. You're not there anymore.
No, Bob and Hartford.
So join us next week as we come from Bethel. And I just want to thank as well Ivan for the opportunity to host. And thank the Early Bird again very much. I can highly recommend their bacon and eggs, and they have the best coffee.
Go
and
see
the
Hawks.
old-fashioned mugs like this. And just to review, Mr. Marconi and I agree. The Bears. Oh, by the way, where's my? Here we go.
Come on,
the Chicago Bears will beat the Seattle Seahawks. San Diego will beat the now overrated and tired New England Patriots. The New Orleans Saints, the darling of the NFL, Reggie Bush and party will continue the resurgence of New Orleans and beat the way overrated Philadelphia
And the
Eagles.
Baltimore Ravens are on their way to the Super
Baltimore
Bowl.
Ravens and Ray Lewis will destroy
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning will be handing him the ball, saying,
Remember
"Stop
this.
hitting me! You take the ball, just stop hitting me, Mr. Lewis, please, please." So, anyways, thank you very much for joining us. Again, Ivan, thanks so much, and thank you for the early bird. See you next week.